It turns out that Israel is basically looking to suck on the teat of the American taxpayers in a new 20-year military deal, 20-year military deal that attempts to essentially appeal to individuals who have a very superficial, surface level understanding of what America first means. So, in other words, this proposal by the Israelis to the US government uses lingo and rhetoric that's meant to kind of entice our government into agreeing and going along with this deal. So let's get to the details. Now, Axios' Barak Ravid, who always gets the scoop due to his close ties and connection to the Israeli government, reported that the proposal doubles the usual decade or 10-year long deals that the United States has previously signed with Israel. Now, understand when I say deal, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the United States government taking out debt and then providing resources to Israel to buy American-made weapons to commit the atrocities they commit. It's that simple, right? For their security. We provide a nuclear power with $3.8 billion a year as a result of the previous 10-year deal that was signed under the Obama administration. That is actually set to expire in 2028. However, the Israelis would like to maybe rework that deal. And I'm pretty sure they're gonna look for more than $3.8 billion. So there have been 3 10-year framework agreements for long-term security assistance to Israel in 1998 to the tune of $21.3 billion. So that $21.3 billion, I want to be clear, is divided by 10, and every year they get a portion of that money. Then there was the deal in 2008. I don't know how much of a deal this is. I mean, it's a great deal for Israel. It's not really much of a deal for the United States or the American people. Sure, our weapons manufacturers love it. They get to make money off of this. But understand it's a redistribution of wealth from American taxpayers to a tiny group of weapons manufacturers. Let's keep going. The other deal, again, 2008, $32 billion. And in 2016, this was under Obama, $38 billion. Okay, so that doesn't even account for the 30 billion additional dollars that were provided to Israel since October 7th in order for them to carry out, well, everything that we've been seeing in the Gaza Strip. But Israel, again, actually wants to amend the military funding deal that's already in place, likely to get a little more cash out of us. So the current 10-year memorandum of understanding, that's what these so-called deals are called, signed in 2016 under Barack Obama, expires in 2028. Israel wants to conclude the new deal over the next year. So in regard to this new deal, Israel has floated 2 ideas. Okay, 2 ideas for changes in the upcoming security agreement. Now, I say upcoming security agreement because in my mind, this is just, it's gonna happen. There's usually no debate about it. Now, more and more Americans are waking up and realizing, hey, why exactly are we providing all these resources to Israel, a country that's actually doing better than the United States economically speaking? How does that make any sense? But these Americans aren't organized yet. There's more and more pressure toward members of Congress to reject these types of deals. It remains to be seen if it's going to be effective enough in time to prevent the Trump administration from, going along with this. But in my mind, I don't want to be a defeatist, but it's true. I think that Israel's very likely going to get what they want. So the first proposal was extending the agreement from 10 to 20 years, which would make it broader in scope and take the agreement through Israel's 100-year anniversary of the Nakba, or independence, as they like to call it, in 2048. So no thank you to that. That's how I would respond if I were a United States, member of Congress, or Donald Trump, if I were the president of the United States. I mean, imagine having all that power that you could essentially use for good, but instead Well, we know what our government likes to do. Now, the second change the Israelis proposed was to use some of the money for joint US-Israeli research and development rather than direct military aid. So this is where the so-called America First nonsense comes in, and I don't think this is actually America First. This could be in the field of defense tech, so essentially working with Israel on defense-related AI, no thank you, and the Golden Dome Missile Defense Project, an Israeli official said. Now, if you don't remember what the Golden Dome Defense Project is, President Donald Trump had floated the idea of the United States building an Iron Dome-like missile defense system, which, look, Israel is a tiny country, so the Iron Dome makes sense. It's a missile defense system that actually works and is effective for the most part because of the size of Israel. The United States, a little different. It's a little different. But make no mistake about it, there's nothing America First about this. This is all about the United States, a country that's currently drowning in now $38 trillion in debt, taking out more debt, handing over these resources to Israel so they can engage in their empire building and expansionist policies in the Middle East. And to that I say no, I do not accept. Our government should not comply, but our government will comply. Although I will say, with all these leaks coming out, all the Jeffrey Epstein information we're getting about various powerful people, either currently in our government or formerly in our government, maybe with the cat out of the bag and without potential blackmail being used by Israel to get our lawmakers to go along with their, genocidal regime, maybe they'll change their minds. Who knows? We'll see. I doubt it, but maybe. Now, how likely is it that Israel will get its way with this 20-year deal that, again, drags the United States into more debt on behalf of a foreign country and foreign military? Very. And why do I say that? Well, interestingly enough, the Wall Street Journal also published a fascinating piece that I think coincides with what was just reported in Axios. It's titled, "The Gaza War Has Been Big Business for US Companies." So I actually want to apologize to the audience because I have actually focused much of my ire toward the corruption in our government, the likely disgusting pedophiles in our government, and more importantly, the Israeli government having far too much influence over our politicians. But you can't forget the fact, as I think I've done a poor job in drawing attention to this. You can't forget the fact that there are people in the United States who benefit handsomely from what's going on in the Middle East, from our so-called alliance with Israel. And those are defense contractors, weapons manufacturers. And that's exactly what the Wall Street Journal detailed in this piece. And so I want you guys all to remember that the Wall Street Journal has its editorial board, which is unhinged, super right-wing, like their lips are like chafed from how much they kiss Israel's ass. So forget about them because they're separate from the news division, right? The news division actually sometimes puts out really, really great reporting, and this is an example of that. So Benoit Falcon writes that the American company that has brought in the most Israeli business since the Gaza war began is Boeing. The US greenlighted an $18.8 billion sale of Boeing F-15 strike fighters last year to Israel for delivery beginning in 2029. So it's not just, AIPAC or other members of the Israel lobby influencing our politicians. Remember, Boeing's engaging in campaign donations. So are all the other defense contractors who are, making quite a bit of money with what's happening in the Middle East with the genocide in Gaza. Other companies that have secured approved weapon sales include Northrop Grumman, which provides spare parts for jet fighters. Lockheed Martin, a supplier of high-powered precision missiles. In fact, let's check in with Lockheed Martin. How are they doing these days? Well, in its most recent annual report, Lockheed Martin said it had benefited from increased American defense funding related to Israel and Ukraine, notably munitions purchases. Revenue at its missiles division rose 13% just last year. to a whopping $12.7 billion. So it's a huge cash cow for these companies. The alliance that the United States has with Israel isn't really beneficial to the American people or, quite frankly, the American government, with the exception of those who take the bribes and win their elections as a result of those bribes. But the people who really benefit from this alliance is the Israeli government. Those within the Israeli populace who think that the expansionist policy is the policy that makes sense, who feel entitled to stealing land in Gaza. They now occupy 58%. That's the latest report. Or the West Bank, where atrocities continue day after day, where Palestinians are driven out of their homes day after day. Israel's also occupying Lebanon as we speak, southern Lebanon to be specific. Now, General Dynamics, by the way, also is part of this. They are a defense contractor, weapons manufacturer, and they provide Israel with 120 millimeter shells for its Merkava tanks. So let's take a quick look at this fun graph because it's going to help you visualize just how much money the United States has poured into Israel since October 7th. That includes $18.9 billion for military aircrafts, $10.7 billion for missiles, $1.5 billion for military vehicles, and another $1 billion for artillery. And as we speak, the Trump administration is seeking congressional approval to provide another $6 billion in additional weapons to Israel. And that's according to the reporting in this piece by the Wall Street Journal. Think about what Trump is also up to simultaneously, or has been up to simultaneously. He's been fighting tooth and nail to deny Americans their full SNAP benefits. I'm talking about Americans living in poverty who are having trouble feeding their families. And when you look at the average benefit, monthly or weekly benefit to SNAP recipients, it's peanuts, but he has a problem with that. He's going to deny full benefits because of this whole government shutdown situation. God forbid, our government tap into reserve funds in order to make Americans whole when our Congress is too incompetent to do its job. But when it comes to another $6 billion for Israel, Trump isn't debating it amongst members of his cabinet. He's trying to convince Congress to authorize it, and they will. Because one thing that I know about our Congress is they're not really efficient at doing anything on behalf of the American people. But when it comes to war, when it comes to military spending, they're real efficient, real efficient.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.